is Dr. Fuller. I would like to introduce you to the mathematical world around you. One feature of real numbers that we often work with as adults is the idea of signed numbers, positive and negative values. One type of signed number is the integer. Integers are all the whole numbers plus their opposites. Positive numbers are values greater than 0. Positive numbers allow us to count and answer questions such as how many or how far. Negative values are numbers that are smaller than 0. Negative values that are further away from 0 are smaller in value than those closer to 0. You may have seen models using two-color counters or number lines. I like to think about money when I work with positive and negative values. It makes sense to me to have money or a positive amount. When I need to borrow money, I have a negative amount. I also understand receiving, the same as adding, and losing, the same as subtracting. Finally, any money paid to me is a positive amount, and the bills I pay are negative amounts. Let's look at a typical situation where you might experience values less than 0 using money. I have $25. Because I have this money, it is a positive value. Like in any case with money, I can spend it, save it, or get more. Recently, it was my birthday, and my grandparents sent me $20. How much money do I have now? I will start with the math expression representing this situation. Positive 25 plus positive 20. On a number line, we start at positive 25, then move to the right 20 more. The thinking here is I have $25 and gained more money, $20. With this thinking, I should have a positive answer further from 0 from where I started. Adding the values gives a positive $45. Next, I found a video game I want to purchase, but it cost $50. After I buy it, how much do I have left? Starting with the math expression, I get positive 45 plus negative 50. On a number line, we start at positive 45, then move left 50. Notice that to add a negative 50, we must move past 0. We end at negative 5. The thinking for this problem is that I have $45 and I get a bill for $50. I realize I do not have enough money, but I am close. I will need to borrow some to buy my game. Fortunately, my bank card allows me to spend money I do not have if I pay off the balance. But how much do I borrow, and how do we write it? To be able to spend $50, I need $5 more. Buying this game means I now owe $5, or I have a negative 5. Finally, let's look at the math. I start by using a regrouping strategy to combine the negative 50 with the 45. Then I use the associative property of equality to group the 45 and the negative 45. This makes a 0 pair and fulfills the additive inverse property. The 0 property of addition simplifies the statement, and I am left with negative 5. With regrouping and 0 pairs, we arrive at the same answer of negative 5. This means that I must borrow $5. It also means that I now owe my bank $5. Later in the week, I realized I needed $10 in extra groceries. I can represent this situation with the math statement negative 5 plus negative 10. On the number line, we start at negative 5, then move left 10. Looking at the number line, I can see that I owe more than I did before, for a total of negative $15. The thinking is that I owe $5 and I get a bill for $10. Since I do not have any money, I need to borrow. However, since I already owe money, I go further into debt to a number further away from zero. Here is the math. I start by using the distributive property to factor out a -1. Then I simplify the values inside the parentheses. I use the multiplication property of -1 to simplify completely. I owed some money and wanted to spend more, meaning I must borrow more. I am a bit further in debt than before this purchase, now owing my bank $15. Then I earned $60 helping a neighbor. How much do I have now? The numerical expression is -15 plus 60. While the 60 is positive, we do not generally write the positive symbol. On the number line, I start at -15 and move right 60 units, ending at +45. The thinking here is that I owe $15 and I receive money, $60. I always pay my debts first, so the amount of money I have is what is left over after I pay back the bank. Since my debt is less than $60, I should have some money left over. Here is the math. Using regrouping, I break the 60 into useful pieces. Next, the associative property of addition allows me to rearrange the parentheses. The additive inverse property combines the positive and -15s to make 0. Finally, the addition by 0 property simplifies the expression to 45. After returning the borrowed money from what I earned, I have $45 left. Later, my mom said she paid my grocery bill of $10 from earlier in the week. How much do I have now? The expression 45 minus -10 represents this situation. On the number line, I start at 45. The first subtraction sign tells us to go left on the number line. However, the negative tells us to go in the opposite direction. The thinking behind this is that I started with $45, but I lost a bill for $10. My mom is taking away the bill I paid for the groceries. As I already paid the amount, I am getting a refund. Look at the math. The inverse property is used twice for the opposite of 10. Then we simplify the statement for an answer of 55. When you have the event of not having to pay for something you already paid for, you are getting a refund. In my mathematical world, I have one little problem. I like to keep track of my bank balance to ensure everything is correct. My bank is cool because they let me borrow with no fee as long as I end the month with a positive amount. I started this month with $50 in my checking account. I worked a few hours at a friend's store last month. She paid me $350. How much do I have after I deposit this check? I want to purchase a new sofa for $425. Do I have enough or not? How much do I need to borrow, or how much do I have left over after this purchase? 2 days after I purchased the sofa, it went on sale. The store credited me the difference of $180. How much do I have, or how much do I owe now? I helped another friend with a project and he paid me $120. What is my balance now? I decide to buy a TV. I found a great one for $290. What is my balance at the end of the month? Do I need to deposit more to have a zero balance, or do I have enough? I want to save up for a vacation that will cost $760. How much more do I need to earn to have enough money to go on the trip? Take the following expression. How could you explain this math expression using money, like the examples in this video? What is the value of this expression? Take a look and you will see a mathematical world around you filled with positive and negative values. Often, we see these types of values in the context of the world, whether it be temperature, altitude, or finance. However, signed numbers appear in sports, technology, medicine, and many other areas. Signed numbers help us describe and work in the world around us.